Denise woke from her dream, feeling as though she were clawing her way out of a deep, dark lake. Her brain felt sluggish, and she couldn't immediately understand what had disturbed her. The sounds filtered through, footsteps shuffling on the cold tiles of the floor of her kitchen.
Bernard mustn't be able to sleep again.
Denise stretched her hand behind herself and felt a familiar indent in the mattress. It was cold. Her husband must have been up for a while. She wished he would come back to bed. After 30 years of marriage, she found it hard to fall asleep without company.
What time is it?
Denise rolled forward to reach the lamp. Her fingers brushed a bottle, knocking it off the edge of the bedside table. The bottle's contents rattled as it hit the floor.
What's that?
She already knew what it was, though. Sleeping pills. Her mind, still filled with that deep water sensation, couldn't remember why she had sleeping pills on her bedside table. She never suffered from insomnia. That was Bernard's corridor. The footsteps moved from the kitchen to the lounge room in a path Denise was immediately familiar with. Every night he stalked through their home, searching perhaps for relief from his own mind. He always took the same route, from the hallway to the kitchen to the lounge room to the hallway to the spare room, and then back again. Denise was so used to it that it almost never disturbed her anymore.
It's different tonight, though.
He wasn't taking his usual care to move quietly, and his feet scraped over the carpet to produce a harsh sound. Denise's fingers found the lamp's button. The shadows scattered to the deepest corners of the room. Illumination fell upon the familiar shapes. Her bureau, the beautiful wooden table that normally held her trinkets and vase of fake flowers, was a mess. Someone who had scattered the contents to the ground. Denise frowned.
Who? And why would I go to bed without tidying it?
The faint, blurred memory rose to her mind. She saw herself sweeping her forearm across the table, knocking off the makeup and silver brushes Bernard had given her. Even the cherished necklace he'd bought her on their 30th anniversary. Denise bent over the edge of the bed to pick up the bottle she'd knocked to the floor. It was unexpectedly light. She shook it and found it was only half full.
I've been taking them for a few days now, then. They must be the reason my head's so foggy. I can't remember.
The shuffling footsteps moved towards the lounge room. Denise imagined her husband, his sagging face cold and distant, as he gazed out of the full-length window towards the swaying black trees that had lined their driveway. He always looked grim when the insomnia had him in its grip. Once, not long after their marriage, she'd asked him why he looked that way. He stared at her for a long time without answering. Bare feet dragged over the carpet as Bernard's well-worn path took him past their bedroom. His silhouette appeared in the doorway, too far from her lamp for his features to find any relief, and finally his pacing stopped. Denise thought he may be ready to come back to bed, but he didn't enter the room. Through shadows obscured his face, she could make out the shock of a thin, messy hair and the outline of his crumpled clothes.
Burn?
A strange odor accompanied him. She'd smelled it before, although she knew, and recently, but she couldn't place quite where. She still cradled the bottle of sleeping pills in her hand, and she squeezed it as images flashed across her sluggish mind. The flowers, chromatically bright, lying across the dark polished wood.
That's what the smell is, she realized. He smells like those flowers.
She saw herself sitting at the bureau, watching the tears run down her face, ruining the makeup, bleeding the black eyeliner, and the rouge that had been intending to hide behind her paleness. She'd been surrounded by the gifts her husband had lavished on her. It was intolerable. She swept them off the table and watched them clatter to the ground. She then remembered, standing on a grassy swell, staring into a black hole as the polished wood was lowered into it. She realized she needed the sleeping tablets. They were the only thing that had been able to bring her rest after the funeral. After Bernard's funeral. Denise turned towards the doorway, where the silhouetted man had watched her.